Dr. Ruiz, what advice would you give to students to be successful in remote learning and in the remote classes? Do you have advice for students to not experience Zoom fatigue, anything like that that you can offer?
Sure. I can offer probably three things three suggestions. One, schedule. You should continue to schedule your time in terms of when you will study. It seems like when you're home, there's endless time because you're not having to travel from one place to another, but time gets eaten up by other things when you're home. And so much like the students, we fall into those same traps. So I try to maintain somewhat of a schedule. I'm a little more flexible, of course, but maintain that schedule. The second thing I would add is that even online or remotely, we're still offering office hours, which I would like to rename student hours, because it's not an office hour for the professor to sit in their Zoom space or when back to face in their office. It's really student hours. It's our time to work with the students one-on-one or in smaller groups to answer questions about the material, the discipline, their futures, any of that type of thing. And coming from a first generation background, I didn't engage much in office hours because I felt I was imposing. Whereas I think if we start to structure this particular time and let students know, this is your time with us as student hours, I hope that students start to take advantage of them much more. And it does provide a nice smaller space for students to not only engage with their faculty, but also with each other. So I started to have students who would just sort of hang out, not only in my office during the face-to-face, but in Zoom, to see what other questions students might ask. And then it created a really interesting dialogue with the students and with me. And we went into some interesting topics of conversation as a result. And so take advantage of that. And three, kind of ties into student hours, but also don't be afraid to ask. We're all in new territory. We're all moving along together in a different way. And so having a little bit of grace for each other, it goes a long way. But we very often, I do anyway, feel that students assume that we know where they're at each point in time, and we really have no way of knowing. And so if you share with us, we can more easily be able to provide resources or contacts to help get you through not just the academic pieces, but other pieces that really affect your ability to do well in the academic piece.
Great. Dr. Enderly, do you have anything to add to that for advice for students?
Yeah, I think that was really great. I'd encourage students to initiate. I had students make Discord channels for chat rooms that they could chat and share information. I had students initiate Zoom study groups and things like that in a 500-person class. And I think that was really valuable. I had a lot of students while I was hosting office hours or lectures or things live that would engage on the chat room and answer each other's questions. And I even had a TA present and I was present, but sometimes the students would just answer the questions before I even got to them. So it was a great way just to stay engaged. I would say, just to know for my student spring quarter, I think midway through is when it got tough to handle the fatigue. So at least to know that that's going to occur and be ready for, if I'm feeling fatigued about halfway through the quarter, that's normal. And I need to somehow re-energize myself to make it through the rest of the quarter. Mm-hmm. I'd also say, and this is probably true of all of us, but definitely in the chemistry department, we all have contingencies when students have tech issues, whatever that tech issue is. So learn those or ask us if you're having any tech issues, because at least I can speak for myself. I have a whole like contingency plan set out for anything. And I saw many wild things happen last quarter. So when you come in the fall, we're ready.
Dr. Luck, what's your advice for students to be successful in remote learning?
I just like to add one really practical piece of advice. And this is something that I try to apply to myself as well when I'm on Zoom. Keep your webcam on. So if you are on the screen and everybody can see you and you know it, you're less likely to be checking Instagram or doing work for another class. And really staying focused is really important in these classes. And keeping your webcam on is just a simple way to kind of keep yourself doing what it is that you know you ought to be doing, which is paying attention in class.
One thing a student said to me during one of these interviews, and it goes back to what you said earlier, Dr. Reese, about schedule. She said between her classes, she actually leaves her house, walks around the block as if she's going from class to class. And I thought that was brilliant because it just kind of, it brings back a little bit of normalcy to that, going from one class to the other. So I really like that.
It actually makes your brain work better as well. Like getting up and walking around increases flow of blood to the brain, and you will actually be clearer thinking in your next class if you do that.
I'm going to take her advice so I don't I lose some of my Zoom fatigue. Dr. Enderly, we talked a little bit about technology. Do you want to briefly let our students know who might be watching this what the campus has done to make resources available to them so that they're not lagging behind, that they have what they need to learn in this new environment?
Sure, I can definitely speak to spring quarter, and I presume it'll continue into the fall. But there was a number of resources that students were being offered, such as some providers were offering free Wi-Fi. Their UC Davis, for certain students, was mailing out laptops if students needed it. So there was a lot of things. There was a number of things that were provided for free. Our textbook was free spring quarter. So a lot of these various providers were offering a number of things that actually made the cost lower in several scenarios. And I would say, for me personally, I've learned a lot of things about ideal internet speed, knowing the student situation at home where there could be multiple people online at the same time, or one family member is asking another family member to, take out the trash or what have you, that can be happening during class. So what I'm going to do, and a number of my colleagues are going to do, is querying or asking the students at the very beginning of the quarter, what's your situation here? And I want to hone in on the students that might have higher need in the beginning, especially with technology, so that we're ready and I can talk to them and prepare them before or early in the quarter, so that when there are parts of the quarter that have higher tech needs or need internet for whatever reason, they'll be more prepared.
Dr. Luck, we talked a little bit about this as well already, but can you speak to some of the resources that faculty have been provided by the campus, training or technology needs, equipment, things like that?
Well, I know very well a couple of the people who are in charge of technology and teaching effectiveness for the university, and they have basically been working 20-hour days nonstop since this whole thing started, because they knew that they had the information that everybody else needed. And so they provide tons of training. We have a website devoted to how to keep teaching during a pandemic situation. They're constantly adding new features to Zoom to make that better for us. They've provided licenses for additional teaching-related software like Turnitin. So they've really done everything humanly possible to give the faculty the tools that we need to do the best possible job of teaching.
Great. Dr. Reese, you felt supported by the campus through this transition?
Absolutely. And also on top of any of the technical issues we might have, we've really come together to help each other, to figure out best practices and sharing tips. And we do that in a very formalized way through our different centers for teaching and technology, but also just very informally. You know, I've heard that you're doing the following. Can you please share more? For example, Dr. Luck had shared that they were working on some resources for the department, and they opened that up to the entire campus. And so we've made use of that and shared that with our group in our department. And so there's the very formal channels of assistance and support, and very informal. And I think it's kind of interesting to have a group of individuals who are normally experts in their area come together and say, hey, I'm not an expert in this piece, but you are. Can we work together to make this really valuable and really compelling? And so it's been nice to engage not just with the students in this way, but other faculty as well. So it's been actually nice to form different bonds with different areas of the campus as a result of trying to best meet our student needs.